we like our group. We feel confident in the group, and so that we were able to get another guy that we need on the other side and up front. And so we're really glad to get Thomas and wish JB the best.
What is it about Thomas that you guys like?
His motor. He plays really hard. He's really consistent in his effort. He's big enough and flexible enough to play a number of spots for us. He looks really good in the rotations. That's a heck of a defensive line room there that keeps him from playing and getting his numbers up. But we see a lot of positives. We've known him over the years and as he's come up, and so we're really looking forward to what he can do for us.
Big news from Henderson and Pete Carroll talking about it, the Raiders coach right there, talking about the trade of Jakorian Bennet to the Philadelphia Eagles for defensive tackle Thomas Booker. We'll get into all of that, including Pete's thoughts, in 1 second. But before we do, just want to welcome you to Vegas Nation First and 10, your daily, or at least daily practice report podcast from the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. I cover the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. To my right is Adam Hill, my great friend and colleague from the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. He also covers the Raiders and a lot of other things here in Las Vegas. Before we get to everything, just wanted to remind everybody that Vegas Nation podcasts, including Vegas Nation First and 10, are brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Vegas Nation, and also Station Casinos STN Sports, and we thank them for all their support. Well, Adam, big news since the last time we did our podcast, which was just yesterday, less than 24 hours really, from yesterday's podcast. But the Raiders made a move that I think you and I both alluded to a possibility that this was going to happen, whether they traded Jakorian Bennet or whether he just wasn't on the roster. I think one of two things was going to happen in this situation. For more than a week now, we've seen Jakorian, the young cornerback, fourth-round pick from Maryland, going into his third year, slide down in the opposite direction, the wrong direction of the depth chart. He was running with the threes consistently over the last 5 practices or so. So no big surprise that he got traded. He was kind of fading from their radar. But what are your thoughts on moving on from Jakorian Bennet, but also bringing in Thomas Booker?
Yeah, I think, if you look for where this administration came in, this staff, from the coach to the front office, like there's been a pretty clear preference, and we've known what Pete Carroll's preference is for a long time in terms of size, kind of style of cornerback play for sure.
Yep.
It's not just purely a size thing.
No.
And Jakorian Bennet just never was going to fit that. And, you kind of thought, would he be able to come in and just be that physically talented, that gifted, where it didn't really matter? And I don't think that was going to be the case with Jakorian. I don't know that it was just ever going to work out. And so, yeah, we saw him slide down the depth chart. We kind of thought maybe at some point he just wouldn't make the team. But I think what you do at that point is, hey, if you're going to cut a guy, or if he's not going to make your roster, if he's not going to fit, try to find out if you can get something else. And what Pete Carroll said today was, we saw an opportunity to help out another position with a guy that wasn't going to work out here necessarily, and that's what the Raiders were able to do. So, it's not his fault. He's not terrible. You don't say that. And I think some people say, well, Jakorian Bennet might be a better player. Like, why would you make that trade? Well, it just didn't fit. It wasn't going to work. And if he wasn't going to be on the team regardless, why keep him around? Why just cut him for nothing?
Yeah, and also I think it's also indicative of what the Raiders have seen from Eric Stokes, from Jakorian Richardson, from Darian Porter, to name 3 guys that were ahead of him on the depth chart. You might throw J.T. Woods into that equation as well. But for sure the first 3, I think, have really emerged now in the Raiders' minds to create that comfort level of parting ways with a guy that at the very least could have been good depth for them. But they felt like there were too many guys in front of them that were doing too many good things. And so from that perspective, they felt like they were dealing from a position of strength. Now, it is a leap of faith. There's no question about that. Darian Porter has not played one down of football in the NFL. Jakorian Richardson, in his time in the NFL, it's just been 1 year and about 7 games or so. There were a lot of ups and downs.
Sure.
We chronicled them. So there is and Eric Stokes has not stayed healthy in his NFL career, especially recently. So there's a leap of faith here. And I've had some people from the NFL who are like, are they sure that they can compete with that cornerback room in the AFC West? And I'll say this, Pete Carroll has never hesitated to play young guys. When he sees what he likes to see or thinks that he sees, it's full pedal to the metal, young guys, old guys, whatever the case might be. And obviously he's seen something that gives him a comfort level that they've got the right answers in this room.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, if you want to say, I believe Jakorian Bennet is better than some of the guys that you mentioned, I I don't necessarily agree, but I certainly don't strongly disagree.
Yeah.
I think you can actually make that case. I think that's fair, but it just wasn't going to work out in the system. Like
Right.
for whatever reason, they didn't. We knew he didn't fit. He wasn't the prototypical size, wasn't the prototypical playing style to play in this system, and it just wasn't going to work out. So he wasn't going to be here anyway. I think
Right.
is the fair thing to say. We've been kind of hinting at that for a while. That looked like he probably, if the cuts were made today, wasn't going to make the team. So it's not. It's not him or the other corners. It's basically, do you get anything for him?
Right.
And they ended up getting something back.
And here's the thing: you could probably make the same exact argument for Thomas Booker in Philadelphia. He was starting to fall a little bit down on their depth chart. It's always been a stacked room with the Philadelphia Eagles, and you might say, Vinny, he played 93 snaps last year as a reserve rotational player for a Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles team. Yes, they also drafted Ty Robinson, who I loved at the Senior Bowl out of Nebraska, and he was kind of moving up the depth chart. So it could very well just be a situation where the Eagles had a little bit of surplus. Yeah. Their guy was running into a numbers game. Obviously, the same exact thing going on with the Raiders. Maybe the dynamics a little bit differently. Maybe a player that just didn't fit with what Pete wanted to do defensively. And could you have made the argument that both teams could have waited until the end of cutdown day and just claimed guys off waivers? Booker might have been on waivers. I think there was a strong likelihood if he didn't get moved, that would have been his fate in Philadelphia, unless there was an injury or so. Sure. And Jakorian Bennett as well. Yes, you could make that argument that you could have been patient and waited out. But at the same time, a guy like Booker's going to get claimed on waivers. A guy like Bennett's going to get claimed on waivers. The Philadelphia Eagles are, last on the waiver wire line?
Well, I'll say even if they weren't going to get claimed.
I think they would, and I've talked to enough people that said pretty good
Sure,
shit.
but I guess the point is, even if they weren't going to get claimed, the case would be you want to see if they fit with you. I mean,
correct.
If you claim
4
them,
weeks now.
If you claim them at the end, you're just bringing them in and you're like, hey, I hope this works out.
Yeah.
Because if you claim somebody, you have to keep on the active roster.
Exactly.
So you're just hoping it works out. This gives you a little bit of chance to see, hey, does this guy
Right.
fit with us? I know he wasn't going to fit with you necessarily. Will he fit with us?
Right.
And by the way, if he doesn't, you have several weeks to then cut him, and then he goes to waivers anyway. Which
Exactly.
is what would have happened.
Exactly. So it's just kind of reshuffling the deck from one team to the other and getting a head start on that process of deciding whether Jakorian Bennett works in Philadelphia or Thomas Booker works here with the Raiders. But again, there's no question that this is a little bit of a leap of faith. At the very least, Jakorian Bennett has a body of work in the NFL, small as it might be, and kind of injury-filled as it might be. Let me ask you this. Because, according to my sources, this is something that the Raiders have been trying to do for a couple of weeks now. Obviously, I'm sure there were other offers, but this was, in their eyes anyway, the best offer, right? Otherwise, you don't make the trade.
Right.
Are you surprised that the market might not have materialized the way maybe the Raiders thought they would, or as you may have thought that they would? Cornerbacks are hard to come by.
Sure, they are a little bit, but it's also a guy who has shown flashes, certainly, of ability, but also a guy who's can't stay on the field. I mean, it's been certainly a recurring theme here in his young career. So, I mean, I would think that there'd be somebody interested, and there was somebody interested. Philadelphia was interested enough to make that move. I look at the other side when you talk about what the Raiders get back. It's a conversation I've been having with people for the last couple of weeks of the guys that the Raiders have brought in. A couple of them I feel like have been brought in intentionally that are different. I think they brought in a couple of guys that quote unquote sandpaper guys that are a little rough, guys that are gonna get under people and just light a fire under some people. For the most part, they've gone really, really heavy on character, intelligence, that sort of thing. Now they bring in a guy, I believe only the fourth ever two-time first-team academic All-American in Stanford history, which is pretty impressive. Like, they're definitely going.
They've had some brainiacs.
There has been some administrations here in the not too distant past have been character, and then not necessarily done that.
Yeah.
It seems to absolutely be an intentional thing with this team, and it's just something I noticed. And I tried to ask Pete Carroll about bringing in another smart guy, and he said, "Yeah, Stanford." Kind of blew it off as being a Stanford guy. But
no surprise there.
I do think that there's something to that aspect of how they're a team building right now.
Yeah. Look, speaking about the Raiders secondary as well, Pete Carroll raised a possibility that I think not a lot of people, not a lot of us were even considering. Let's hear what Pete Carroll has to say about maybe another addition to the defensive secondary.
So if you haven't had a chance to get the app yet, again, we still have the $50 no-worry wager available. What a great time to get in the summer. Get yourself familiar with the app. The auto racing, horse racing, the golf,
Women's
the
softball
MMA. I mean, whatever you're interested in, check out the STN Sports app.
His surgery's coming up. We really miss Lonnie. This was, I think we recognize Lonnie in a way that he hasn't been recognized in the earlier parts of his career, with great respect for the variety of things that he adds to the team and all. And we're really going to miss him. We had a number of things that we had, especially that he could do well in contributing to the defense, and so we have to work a little bit to figure out how other guys can take those kinds of concepts and make them work for us. Lonnie's in good spirits. He knows that it's a chance that it's a minimal amount of time to get back. These 5 weeks here are hugely important to him, so he can get back within 3 or 4 weeks into the season, 4 or 5 weeks into the season, or whatever it is, and we'll really enjoy when he gets the chance to come back.
Well, there you have it, Adam.
There's a reason I wanted to play that.
Yes.
And I think that you wanted to as well. I'm trying to sift through the exact words that he used. I think I'm trying to interpret it a little bit. I know you are as well.
Yeah.
It seems like, and I think a lot of people when they saw Lonnie Johnson's injury are like, oh, he's done for the year. And it's definitely a substantial injury. He's going to get the surgery, and that is going to happen very soon. It sounds like what Pete Carroll's saying. To me, what he's saying is these next several weeks are very important because they do have to make a decision before the season starts.
Of course.
If they're, how he's going to, he could be shut down for the year if he's on injured reserve. Or they could try to make it so that he could come back potentially, which means he'd have to be on the roster. So
at cutdown day, and then put him on injured reserve.
Yeah. So these next several weeks, what it sounds like he is saying is it's very, very important to Lonnie and to the team to see exactly where he is right before the season starts, right before they have to make the cutdowns, to decide if it's worth keeping him around, keep him on the active roster, that he'd be able to come back.
So in other words, he'll get the surgery fairly soon,
Yeah.
probably within a week or so. And then between now and cutdown day, which is, I don't have that at the top of my head.
August 26th?
Yeah, August 26th. So
I just made that up, by the way.
You did?
I did. I think it's around then.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the first week of September, right around there. All right, so you'll have between the surgery and until whenever full cutdown is, which is at the end of the month, basically, to then look at that point. All right, is it feasible that he can still help this football team at some point this year? And if so, then you obviously keep him on the 53-man roster. You're going to have to sneak somebody through waivers, bring them back, maybe, or just bring somebody else back off of waivers from someplace else. But then as soon as all that process happens, then reset, put him on the injured reserve, replace him with somebody. Here's the thing. The research that I did, he broke his fibula. Now, one tricky part is usually when you get the surgery, that's the long end
Of the
recovery, and that's the months rather than weeks. But obviously, Pete Carroll talked about the fact that there will be a surgery, and the way he kind of insinuated that there's a possibility that he could be back by, let's say, week 5 of the season, which would be how many weeks away from that? That's like 2 months?
Yeah, 8 weeks.
So it's 2 months, which fits with the low end line or timeline that at least a little bit of the research that I've done talking to a couple of doctors actually. So maybe this type of surgery that he's going to get is going to sort of expedite all of that. And again, it's going to be post surgery, and where he is in about 4 weeks from now or 3.5 weeks, whatever that is from now. That'll give the Raiders a pretty good idea of whether or not he's going to be able to help them make the team. But I guess there's some real hopefulness here.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. The biggest takeaway is there is a chance he's going to be back, and not like week 11, week 12.
Right.
There's a chance he's going to be back
for the balance of the season
with a decent amount of the season remaining, which I think is really good news because we have noticed it. We've talked about it, and Pete Carroll talked about it. They have seen a lot out of him. They have, he talked about himself last week, and we discussed this at the time, that he hasn't really been given a chance to have a big role. He's everywhere he's gone. It's like, you're just a role player. You're a special teams guy. This is what you're going to be. And here, they immediately said, no, we see something for you. And they've given him that chance, and he's really run with it. And he's been a big part of this defense. He's going to be very tough to replace for as long as he is out. So I think it is really, encouraging news, I think, for the defense, for the team, that he could potentially be back sooner rather than later.
Without question. And this is a real point of example of how there's 32 different teams in this league and the 32 different islands, let's put it that way, all right, who see things the way they see things, all right? And so Pete Carroll and this staff see something in Lonnie Johnson. And honestly, I've gotten feedback from the NFL, like it's Lonnie Johnson, downplaying it because not everybody sees Lonnie Johnson the way Pete Carroll and the Raiders see Lonnie Johnson. I'll give you another example.
We don't have to go far. It's the exact opposite of Jakorian Bennett.
Right.
I mean, Jakorian Bennett was seen by the last two administrations really as a starting corner, a legitimate, very important player. And they saw him as not fitting their system.
Correct.
I mean, that's just different coaches, different front offices, position coaches. Like different people see guys different ways.
And yes, exactly. I'll go to Eric Stokes. Eric Stokes, what's been his biggest issue?
Injuries.
Okay. Pete Carroll, I don't know if you remember catching this, but Pete Carroll said, he's been raving about Eric.
I feel like we have some things that could fix that.
Yes. So whatever injuries he's been dealing with, and it sounds like it's probably muscle injuries, strains, whatever, that their training staff, their medical staff feels like they can mitigate that with the plan that they have in place. Again, it's how this team views his injury history and their fortitude or their ability to kind of navigate around issues that he's had with another organization, not taking anything away from the Green Bay Packers. But it's another example of this is a 32 different team, different medical staffs, different coaching staffs that see things through their lens and have a plan in place from their perspective for the player.
Yeah, no question. I watched Karate Kid, I think, for the 100th time. Mr. Miyagi just fixed an injury, just like that.
Right.
Nobody else thought Daniel was going to be able to continue fighting. Mr. Miyagi, he knew. He had it going.
And there were plenty of others that tried. But couldn't have succeeded, but he could. All kidding aside, I guess
I don't joke about Karate Kid.
There you go. Well, without question, some positivity in light of a very difficult situation for Lonnie Johnson. But we'll revisit that in a couple of months, or really at the end of cut down day, will tell us what they're thinking.
That's when a decision has to be made.
Right.
I think that was that's why we played what Pete Carroll said.
Yeah.
So you can hear exactly what his words. It wasn't just us interpreting it, because our interpretation, obviously, and I think it's right, is that this is a huge stretch. They have to make a decision by cut down day, and they think it's going to be good news. They think it's going to be positive, but he's going to have to get to that point, get to a good enough point that they're comfortable going forward and keeping him around.
I'm going to soften think to hope. I think they hope.
Okay.
I think they hope that it could be. I don't know that they think that it could be, but they're at least entertaining the thought, and that's a positive step. All right, so the Raiders open the preseason on Thursday in Seattle, which, let's face it, is a very special place for a few players, or a couple of players on this team, and certainly a head coach. But Geno Smith is heading back to a place that turned his career around. So there's obviously a lot of significance for Geno Smith going back to Seattle, as it goes without saying. Pete Carroll, where he spent 14 years, won a Super Bowl championship, went to another Super Bowl game. He tries to forget that one, I'm sure. But here's Geno Smith talking about the significance of his first road trip with the Raiders, going back to Seattle.
This one's for the Vegas locals and Vegas locals only. STN Sports is the sports betting experience built for you. From the app to the 19 convenient locations across the valley to sign up, bet, and watch your favorite games. And with a massive betting menu and daily odds boost, there are tons of ways to get in the action. Sign up today.
Really looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing my old teammates, old coaches, people in the building. It'll be fun. Also going back with Pete, that's pretty cool. And then another opportunity to compete with my guys. That's always what it's all about. It was a place where I called home for 6 years. Was able to I had a son there, and I was able to really just kind of turn my career around. Met some really cool people. Got to know a lot of great people there. A lot of great teammates over the years, and just really special things, special thoughts that come to my mind when I think about it.
Well, there's Geno Smith. Talking about going back to the Pacific Northwest, and we'll get to Pete Carroll in one sec. He tried to downplay it. Nobody's buying it. But let's stick with Geno Smith going back to Seattle and playing for the Seahawks. Imagine being Geno Smith. You landed in Seattle, probably, I wouldn't say content with being a career backup quarterback, but that possibility was very prevalent at that stage of his career. And he was okay with it. If that was going to be his NFL journey, then that was going to be his NFL journey. He wasn't, just going to lay down and not fight for a starting job, but he had sort of resigned himself to the fact that that could be a real possibility. Only for things to happen between the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, and then all of a sudden, after 2 years being Russell Wilson's backup, Geno Smith gets an opportunity to start. And not only did he seize that moment, but he became one of the better starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Call it a top 12 quarterback if you want, which coming from being a backup was a major leap forward. So imagine going back to a place where your career literally turned around for the better. It's got to be, and I think he recognizes the significance of that city, the meaningfulness of the Seattle Seahawks organization, and what that all means to him.
Sure, and let's be honest, it's also the other way. It's also an organization where your career did turn around, and you played pretty well for a couple of years, and they said, yeah, we don't think you're good enough. Like,
I actually think it was
they didn't want to commit to him long term.
Yeah, well, I mean, neither did the Raiders. The Raiders offered basically the same thing that the Seahawks did. I actually have a different take on that. I think he wanted to come to the Raiders. I think that if Pete Carroll wasn't in Las Vegas, he would have signed that deal that basically was the same exact deal that he got from the Raiders. I just think that he wanted to be here for whatever reason, but I don't think he loses sight of the fact that I actually think it was his decision more than theirs. Of course, if they would offer him a 5-year.
Not many teams in the NFL will allow a starting quarterback to walk away.
Right.
If they believe that that's their guy, like they're not going to let him go, especially, trade him away to another team. Like it's just not going to happen. So
Are you saying that Sam Darnold is their guy?
I mean, for now,
yeah.
He is for now.
I think that, I think that for the, like I said, he got roughly the same exact deal here in Las Vegas that they were offering him in Seattle. I just think he prefers, because of Pete Carroll, to be here. I think
that's totally fair.
I think the Seahawks would have happily signed him for the 3 years, whatever it is that they were offering him. So I don't take it as they turned their back on him. I just think the situations were equal in terms of the money. One team had Pete Carroll, who helped revive his career. The other didn't. But it's whatever the case is. That's what the case is. There's no doubt that it's nostalgic for him to go back.
Oh, no question. And obviously, it's so ironic. I guess not the right word, but it feels ironic.
Yeah.
It's the first game.
Right.
Your first game is back there, and your first game of it's constructed this way. But for Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, their reunion in Las Vegas starts in Seattle, which it's poetic, I guess, more than anything else. And like I said, I think it was designed that way intentionally, but it's gonna be a moment for sure, and we'll see how the crowd responds. I know everybody up there is saying, hey, when he's on the big screen, when they put him on the screen, when he walks in the field, he should be cheered. Easier to do that in the preseason than the regular season for sure. So yeah, I think there's going to be probably a pretty warm reception for both of them. I'm not sure about the defensive player that's returning, Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
We'll see how the reaction is for him potentially. But I think it's going to be a moment. I think it's nice for them to be able to do it in a preseason game where the outcome doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not like there's all this pressure on them. It's not like, you're living and dying over the results and you're going to be,
They're going to hate
crushed.
you after you if you beat them,
or you're crushed
whatever.
about it and you have to think about it,
Yeah.
even more if you lose it. Like it's a nice opportunity to get back on the field, see the people, the clubhouse attendants, like there's people like that, people around around the stadium that work there, all the different people that are so important to making the game day experience up there, and you get to see them all again. Like that'll be cool, and to be able to do it in a game that the outcome doesn't matter, I think is really nice.
Yeah, and I obviously even more so for Pete Carroll. He's not. He talked about leaving USC to go up to Seattle with an idea in mind. It was kind of an experiment that he had, and I know this to be true because I know a lot of people kind of get this a little mixed up. A lot of people are like, oh, he just left USC because the sanctions were coming. The sanctions were coming. I think everyone was a little bit surprised by how heavy-handed they were with coming off the whole Reggie Bush thing. But Pete Carroll had interviewed for 3 other jobs in that, in and around then and in a couple of years before. He interviewed with the Miami Dolphins. He interviewed with the San Francisco 49ers and another team that I'm forgetting. He left for the Seattle Seahawks for one specific reason. Their owner told him, you don't have to run anything up any flagpole. It's your baby. You get to be you're the decision maker. You get to pick your own general manager. You get to pick the players. You don't have to run it by anybody. And for him, he felt, Pete Carroll did, and I know because I talked to him about this shortly after he got to Seattle. This owner told me what I wanted to hear. I believe that this is how it should be done. I think the coach should have the final say. I think the coach it should be his vision. He goes, whether it works or not, I don't know. We'll see. Well, they won a Super Bowl a couple of years after he told me that. But that's what he went up to Seattle to prove or not prove. And he absolutely did. It absolutely did work at the highest of levels. The Seattle Seahawks reached heights that they've never seen before. They won a Super Bowl championship. They went to another Super Bowl. They were perennially in playoff contention. And I guess Pete Carroll's experiment worked out. So for him.
And the owner said, and you're allowed to pay the players here.
Right.
It's great the way that it works out.
He was just ahead of his time.
Yeah, sure.
USC didn't pay Reggie Bush. It was an agent that paid.
And they had
that paid
no
Reggie
idea
Bush.
what was going on either. But no, in all seriousness though, like to that point, also Pete Carroll, look, he's human. He's the ultimate competitor, as he talks about all the time. Competition is what he cares about, and he did have something to prove at the NFL level. He did want to go back and prove that, and I think it was
on
important
his
to
terms
him.
though.
Right? And I think it was very important to him to get that opportunity the way he wanted to do it, and he looked at his early time in the NFL and said, "That's not how I wanted to do it," and it failed. Not failed, but it didn't go the way I wanted, and I had to do it on somebody else's terms. So now I have a chance on my terms with no regrets to go to the NFL and say, I can do this and I can do it my way, and that's what he was able to do. And I think he really treasured that opportunity.
We'll talk about this when the time is right. But in another twist of irony, he's also going back to New England. His first game with the Raiders is going back to New England, which that's one of the situations that famously didn't quite work out.
Sure.
But if you go back and look at him replacing, who did he replace? Bill Parcells. If you remember, the New England Patriots are coming off a Super Bowl appearance against the Green Bay Packers when Bill Parcells says, I'm out of here. Why did he say that he was out of there? Because Robert Kraft wasn't letting him famously pick the ingredients. If they want me to cook the meal, I should be able to have more say in picking the ingredients. There was a general manager in place who had the final say. Bill Parcells, coming off a Super Bowl, said, you know what? I'm out of here. And so Pete Carroll went into that situation that Parcells left because he didn't have enough power, and ran into the same exact problems in New England of not being able to have enough of a say to pick the right players, to pick the players that he felt were right. And that's the lesson that he learned. Like, you know what? Bill Parcells was actually right. Yeah. And the next time I go to the NFL, I'm going to make sure that I have that power, that leeway. And that's what happened in Seattle, and I'm sure it's happening here in Las Vegas in conjunction with John Spytek. They're two peas in a pod. They see things alike, just as he and John Schneider saw things alike in Seattle. But that'll be another story for another day. Pete, Jamal, Geno Smith going back to Seattle for our purposes, much more significant in terms of who's going to play. And Pete Carroll left the door open for everybody to play.
Said everyone's live. He didn't say
Everybody's
everyone's
live,
playing.
but he didn't say that. Okay, do you think that the starters will play?
I kind of feel like we'll see one series.
All right, so there you go. I agree. Short of that, and that'll be in and out, and that'll be that. What are you most curious to see in terms of this game against the Seattle Seahawks?
I mean, I do just want to see how the offense looks against a defense that is a new defense.
Right.
They don't necessarily know what's coming. We see that a lot. I think we've seen them scheme a lot of guys open during some practices. Other practices have been a little bit of a challenge, especially some of the depth on the offensive line has had some trouble holding off the defense. So how does this offense look in terms of just creating open guys? I don't necessarily care about the completions, that sort of thing. It's how does it look? Are guys open? Are guys, are they on the same page? Are they running the plays that they want to run and, getting the results they want, whether it's, completed or not? I think the actual results don't matter as much as process and how they're getting there.
All right, pick one name that fans are going to go, whoa, interesting.
Darian Porter.
Darian Porter. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna say this is gonna feel personal.
Okay,
but I think Tommy Millott gets a couple plays. Okay. And this is
sure,
a game.
Sure
this is a game.
You're saying he makes plays or he
makes plays?
Okay.
Where there's going to be some where he makes some plays in space, whether it's on kickoff return, whether it's in the offense. This is sort of one of those games that's conducive to he and Cam Miller, and both of them, to be honest, have had some rough patches here in training camp. They're 2 7th-round picks, for crying out loud. It's expected. Tommy Millott's also making his position change from quarterback to wide receiver, as we've talked about. But I think both are going to have enough time and maybe an opportunity to make a play where maybe they open some eyes.
I'll be interested to see how that works out. You say it's personal.
What about Jack Besh?
We had a debate yesterday. Yeah, I think we've seen a lot from Jack Bech for sure.
Recently, he's been
especially
flashing.
recently, he's been doing quite a bit. So Dante Thornton, we should point out, could be one of those guys. He was limited a little bit today. They were just
held him
managing reps. They were holding him back a little bit. So we'll see what that means for. I was going to say Saturday night, Thursday night. The other two games of the preseason are on Saturday. So we'll see what that means for then. It doesn't seem like there's any concern, so we should be able to go. So a lot of rookies. We'll see how that works out. If we're talking about the starters playing, I do wonder if the starters do play, if that means Ashton Genty is playing. I don't know that he would. I think I remember somebody saying they don't expect him to be hit until the regular season. So we will see. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I think if the starters are out there, he'll probably be out there.
If the starters are out there, I'm saying that Michael Mayer is going to have a
sure,
and maybe Trey Tucker, who, by the way, Geno Smith, Santana Moss, high praise.
Yeah, I saw people were doing that on Twitter yesterday. I don't know if maybe he's like chronically online.
Who?
There was a bunch of people that were doing like Santana Moss posts yesterday.
Was it?
I don't know why.
NFL Network was here yesterday. Maybe, and they did a sit down with Geno. I haven't caught the whole interview. Maybe he brought up Santana Moss to them, and that's why people, because that was the first time I ever heard Geno Smith, or anybody for that matter, talk about Trey Tucker as a Santana Moss similar type player. But I'll say this: Trey Tucker's definitely been having a strong camp.
Somebody posted a long highlight reel about Santana Moss yesterday. I
Maybe
was
that's what it is.
wondering why. Maybe he just saw it and decided to make that
Could
comparison.
be.
Could be. If you do see the clip online, the first route on this long clip of Santana Moss is ridiculous. It's like a triple move.
Sick.
Yeah, it's like a triple move.
Loved
crazy.
watching Santana Moss play. If Trey Tucker could be anything near where Santana Moss was, the Raiders have themselves a pretty good football player, and I'm going to tell Geno Smith, you got a pretty keen eye for talent. Of course, he knows Santana from being from South Florida. They work out together, so he's got intimate knowledge of Santana Moss and his triple, quadruple moves. That
it was a triple move for a touchdown. It was pretty eye-opening.
Well, whatever happens in Seattle, and by the way, send us positive thoughts, because the Raiders play that game at 7 o'clock at Lumen Field in Seattle. Right next door is where the Seattle Mariners play. They have a 1 o'clock game on Thursday against the Chicago White Sox, and so it's going to be kind of mayhem. Maybe getting into that stadium and the egress, whatever you call it.
Did you say Lady Gaga's in town Friday?
Lady Gaga is in town somewhere.
Okay.
She's playing over at the old Key Arena. They still call it Key Arena up there?
Are you sure? I feel like she's a Lumen Field.
No. She's an arena. She's doing the arena. That's what I thought I saw. That's what I thought I saw.
Climate Pledge Arena.
Our resident information guy Dom is.
I believe Climate Pledge is the name of the arena now. So.
That's Key.
Yeah.
That's Key Arena. Yeah, that's where the old Seattle Super. Yeah, so she's playing an intimate show at the Key Arena.
First of all, she's American. Did you just do a British?
No.
I feel like you were doing English accent.
Maybe it was a little English.
I think you were doing English. She's from New York.
One of the great Italians, by the way. So we always show love for the Italians out here. So Lady Gaga, do your thing. We'll be keeping track of that. So a big busy weekend, or busy week, middle of the week in Seattle. So we're gonna have to navigate our way around. But whatever happens between the Raiders and the Seahawks on Thursday night, Adam and I are going to be
bad romance.
Right, yeah. Adam and I are going to be writing about it, but we're also going to be talking about it. We're going to do a podcast right after the game, so keep an eye out for that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll check back in with you from the beautiful Northwest in Seattle, Washington.